My husband forced my abortion as a sacrifice for his sister-in-law. My sister suffered a miscarriage after intense intimacy, and when my husband, Robert Harrison, heard the news, he was beside himself with distress. As soon as he came home, he urgently instructed me, also pregnant, you go undergo an abortion as a sacrifice too. Otherwise, Jessica will be sad. I had planned to appeal to his better nature and reason with him, but his attitude was resolute. You need to be sensible. If Jessica hadn't gone on that trip and made me crazy with jealousy, you wouldn't have had the chance to lure me into keeping this child. On the day of the procedure, he stood outside the door, watching me, afraid I would run away. But this time, I wouldn't cling to anything he offered. Robert Harrison frowned deeply, chain-smoking cigarettes. The smell made me nauseous, and I only dared to sit further away to protect the child in my belly. He took another deep drag, and the words that came out were heartless. Ellie, let's not keep this child for now. Your sister just lost hers. His words were flat, yet he still pretended the decision was difficult. Hearing him felt like being struck by lightning, my mind buzzing. I forced down the acidic taste of nausea. I was 3 months pregnant, and unsure of his reaction, I hadn't dared to tell him. During that time, I silently endured all the morning sickness alone. Luckily, he hadn't noticed during the few prenatal checkups I'd had. In 3 years, this was the first time he had agreed to keep a child, and I hadn't dared to probe his thoughts. Today, after my prenatal checkup confirmed the baby's health, I chose to share the good news. I thought he would be happy for me, but after only a moment's hesitation, he pronounced the baby's death sentence. The reason was that my own sister, Jessica, had just accidentally suffered a miscarriage. I held onto the sofa and stood up, trembling uncontrollably. Jessica's baby was lost because of their intense intimacy, not because of me. Why can't I have my own child? He couldn't stand hearing me talk about Jessica's private life and glared at me fiercely. He blew smoke into my face. How can you be so unreasonable? That's your own sister. If you're pregnant now and she's grieving, it will affect her recovery. I stiffened my neck, determined to argue for my child's sake. Then why were you so eager to spend that night with me, and why did you agree to keep the child? He opened his mouth but refused to answer. Despite his tacit agreement that night, I had asked him several times, curious. But he had always put off explaining the reason. We parted on bad terms. He kicked me out of the study, turned his back, took out a phone from a drawer, and carefully dialed. His voice was incredibly gentle. It was an accident, Jess, you have to believe me. I was just jealous. You knew I'd be upset, but you still went on that trip with David. You have no idea how angry I was. That's why I did something wrong with your sister. I didn't expect it to happen with just one time. Just focus on your recovery. I've already told her to terminate the pregnancy. He sweet-talked her for a long time before she sounded happy, but outside the door, I felt like I had fallen into an abyss. When he hung up, he was still gazing out the window, lingering there. I slowly went downstairs. Maria, the housekeeper, asked me sympathetically, "Madam, what would you like for dinner tonight?" Even the housekeeper could tell I was pregnant and was carefully looking after me. Meanwhile, the baby's father was completely focused on pleasing someone else. Just something light to whet my appetite, I replied. I had made up my mind. Even if he didn't agree, I would keep the child. I stayed up all night, red-eyed, making soup in the kitchen. If I wanted to keep the baby, I still needed to find a way to get Robert Harrison's approval. But he was in a panic. Leave. Without even straightening his clothes. I quickly stopped him and offered him the soup. Robert, the soup I made is still hot. It's nothing urgent, have a sip before you go. He was about to leave, but hearing my invitation, he actually turned back. Things seemed to be improving, and I felt a flicker of hope. He picked up the spoon and stirred the soup twice, a look of pleasure on his face. Good, your cooking is still the best. I smiled a bitter smile, relieved my efforts might bring a change. But his next words sent me crashing back down. Add some tonic ingredients for recovery, please. Pack it up for me, I'll take it to Jess. The spoon in my hand clattered into the pot. I rubbed my aching lower back, unable to muster any energy. When my sister first announced she was pregnant, Robert Harrison had eagerly rushed over to see her. When I followed him, he was giving instructions to David Harrison, one after another. Jess, pregnancy is tough. Massage her back for her, rub her legs. Tell your sister anything you want to eat. It wasn't that he couldn't do these things, he just wasn't willing to do them for me. I dropped my smile and gently wiped away the hot soup that had splashed on my arm. If Jessica wants something to eat, Maria will make it, of course. He seemed impatient. Maria's cooking isn't as good as yours. Your sister's. Jess loves your cooking. With that, he stopped looking at me, called Maria, and had her pack up all the soup. Jess was quite upset when she heard you were pregnant. She bled a lot again last night. I need to go see her. He paused, then said in a low voice, I've scheduled your procedure for this weekend. Get it done quickly, before you change your mind. You know the surgeon, don't you? Don't worry, you can have children later. A cold sweat broke out all over me. Seeing him about to leave, I quickly ran a couple of steps to block his path. When will you allow me to have my own child? How long is later? He simply pushed my hand away and left without looking back. I knew Robert Harrison had always been in love with Jessica. Robert Harrison's extravagant pursuit of Jessica had been the talk of Capital City back then. But no one expected that Robert Harrison's brother, David Harrison, would win over my sister in just one night, taking the beauty for himself first. Robert Harrison was unwilling to accept this. When he learned Jessica had an older sister, he quickly eloped with me. Everyone in Capital City knew about their dramatic love triangle. Only I became their sacrifice. I had my own life, and a childhood sweetheart I loved, Daniel Peterson. But Robert Harrison's forceful tactics, a mere glance at me under the tree was enough, bound me into this unequal marriage. He used the marriage as a cover to keep in touch with Jessica time and again. Jessica and I married into the Harrison family on the same day. On our wedding day, my mother couldn't stop smiling. No matter how much I struggled, she would urge me for the sake of reputation. That Daniel Peterson of yours is just a poor student. How can he compare to the Harrison family? Just consider it going in to look after your sister. It's her good fortune extending to you, you should be grateful. After the marriage, I tried hard to please Robert Harrison, fully intending to make the best of our life together. But my marriage was a failure. Countless nights, no matter how affectionate I was, in bed, one phone call from Jessica was enough. He would rush over to her so eagerly. Even when Mrs. Harrison was unhappy I couldn't keep Robert Harrison interested, he didn't bother to hide it. Mom, if you hadn't indulged David in doing such a thing before the marriage, would I have had to settle for less? Now is it wrong for me to even look at her? Every time he said this, Mrs. Harrison felt guilty and would only lecture me, scolding me about the Jean women being poorly raised, producing only manipulative women. I touched my belly, unable to bear giving up this child, and lowered my head. I made the soup again and deliberately went to visit Mrs. Harrison. She left me waiting in the living room for a long time before finally coming out, looking displeased. Your sister just called me crying, I'm already annoyed. And now you show up, being a nuisance. My nails dug into my palms. I really hadn't expected Jessica to involve Mrs. Harrison first. Jessica was the one who ruined the family reputation, yet the blame was being dumped on me. I placed the items on the coffee table and slowly knelt down by Mrs. Harrison's feet. Mom, I'm pregnant, but Robert Harrison doesn't want the baby. Mrs. Harrison looked at her manicured nails and didn't seem in a hurry to speak. I pushed the soup closer. Mom, this is soup I made myself. Please taste it. Can you talk to Robert Harrison for me and ask him to let me keep this child? This is your grandchild. Hearing the word grandchild, Mrs. Harrison turned her head away in disgust. Eugene women are truly low class, unworthy of my two sons. The older daughter lacks means, and the younger daughter only brings trouble to good families. The soup was steaming, but Mrs. Harrison covered her nose and yawned. If Robert Harrison doesn't want the baby, what's the use of coming to me? Why don't you find a way to hold onto your man's heart? The Harrison family doesn't lack women willing to bear Robert Harrison children, whether it's you or not makes no difference. I wanted to argue for myself a bit more, but Mrs. Harrison waved her hand and went back to sleep. Of course, she didn't want to get involved. From the beginning, she had never accepted my existence. That night, Robert Harrison came home and immediately started scolding me. "Did you complain to my mom?" I was full of grievances, holding back tears, afraid it would affect the baby in my belly. But Robert Harrison deliberately poked at my sore spot. "How can you be such a sister? I went to see your sister, and you, on the other hand, went complaining behind her back." My mom scolded Jess so badly she couldn't get out of bed. "Are you satisfied?" The tears wouldn't stay back and streamed down my face. Robert Harrison's resentful gaze suddenly faltered, and the scolding on his lips finally stopped. "Don't be sad, Ellie. I just feel sorry for Jess. Once she's better, we can still have children, right?" My chest felt constricted, making it hard to breathe. I looked at him with despair in my eyes, and he had to look away. "Why? Is my son's life not a life? Is my health less important than Jessica's health?" My question made Robert Harrison lose reputation, and he argued back, his face flushed. "Didn't you already know about the history between Jess and me? I've already married you, what more do you want from me?" My hands trembled as I gave him the baby's ultrasound scan. "Look. He already has hands and feet. Can you really bear to get rid of him like this?" He seemed deflated, took the ultrasound, and sat on the bed, putting his arm around my shoulder. "I'm sorry, Eleanor. You can call me a bastard, but can we not talk about this right now? At least wait a few months. You don't know how Jess cries every day, she's become so thin." He saw someone else's weight loss. But during these months I was pregnant alone, afraid to tell him. I had lived in constant fear. Afraid of revealing the baby's existence prematurely. I had also lost over 10 pounds, but he hadn't noticed. The moment Jessica was pregnant, he bought baby clothes. On the night Jessica miscarried, he rushed to where they were vacationing and carried her to the hospital. During Jessica's recovery period after the miscarriage, he constantly came up with excuses for me to send her meals. Robert Harrison held me silently, trying to appease me. "Didn't you always want to travel? How about I take you to Palm Island Resort?" I chuckled lightly. Of course. Even the vacation spot was the same one he went to with Jessica. What a deep obsession. He held me and talked about a beautiful future. "I think Jess can come with us too. When she sees you've also lost a child, I'm sure she'll feel a lot better. Once Jess has a child, we'll have 10 or 8 ourselves. We'll see who's better, me or David Harrison." My body slowly relaxed. I knew I couldn't fight against fate, and I nodded. "Okay, I agree. I'll get the procedure this weekend." Robert Harrison was slightly stunned, then became ecstatic, hugging and kissing me repeatedly. He released me and ran to the study to share the good news with Jessica. In the following days, he gave me no chance to get close, moving directly into Jessica and David Harrison's place. He didn't show up at the hospital until Sunday for the procedure. Just before I was wheeled into the operating room, he appeared, gently stroked my hair, his face full of tenderness. "Don't worry, just go through with the procedure. The baby will be back soon." I knew he was afraid I would run off, so he had come specifically to keep an eye on me. He didn't forget to put on a show, instructing Dr. Chris. "Give her plenty of anesthetic, don't let her feel any pain." Tears soaked my hair. Inside the operating room, the surgeon was Dr. Chris, who I had known for many years. Seeing my despair, he asked with a hint of pity, "If you don't want this, I can help you keep the baby." "No," I said. "From now on, I don't want anything of his." The procedure was quick. I could distinctly feel the sensation of him being slowly removed from my body. Afterward, I glanced at the bloody child on the tray before returning to the hospital room. Although Robert Harrison was anxious, he still showed some conscience and stayed by my side the entire time. He even occasionally placed his hand on my forehead to check my temperature. "You must be very careful at this time. Jess was this weak at this stage. You need to recover well, you have to have many more children for me later." His hypocritical face disgusted me. I turned my head away, and he awkwardly withdrew his hand. Watching him by the window, his face beaming with joy as he reported to Jessica, my gaze grew colder and colder. All these years, he considered himself a devoted husband, but in reality, all his energy was focused on Jessica. I had accumulated enough disappointment, it was time to leave. I only feared that his possessiveness wouldn't let me go easily. Later that night, Robert Harrison dozed off by my bed. I took a photo and sent it to Jessica. Just as expected, moments later, Jessica called, furious. She just lost her baby, I'm just keeping her company, don't misunderstand. Okay, I'll be right there. Robert Harrison hung up the phone, looking uneasy and avoiding my gaze. Jess is having another episode. I need to go see her. David Harrison can't help, she only has me. This was exactly what I wanted. There was no need for me to stop him. Okay. Robert Harrison seemed taken aback, staring at me blankly as he promised, I'll be back soon, wait for me. I looked out the window and simply said okay again. After 2 days of recovery, I called my mother, getting straight to the point. My baby is gone. My mother must have been playing cards/poker, it was noisy around her. Hearing her daughter had lost a child, she wasn't surprised at all. She even shouted "Who?" excitedly. It's fine, it's just one child. Your sister lost hers too, you can keep each other company. My heart turned cold. She knew. I couldn't help but question her. We're both your daughters, why are you so unfair to me? Is it because I relied on myself while she married into wealth? My mother cleared her throat awkwardly, her hands still busy with her cards. It's just a child. Don't talk to your mother like that, it's too much. Don't be afraid, you can have more later. I sneered and hit back. Do you sent my sister like my husband? Well, I happen to like my brother-in-law. Maybe I'll go try my luck now, see if I can play for sympathy. The noise from the playing cards stopped abruptly. She cursed loudly. You dead girl, how dare you? I hung up the phone and immediately called a cab. Ignoring the pain in my body, I headed straight to David Harrison's place. Robert Harrison was with Jessica, he probably wasn't home. When I knocked, David Harrison was indeed home alone. Seeing my pale face, he looked surprised. Eleanor, aren't you supposed to be recovering after your loss? Why isn't my brother with you? Come in quickly. I smiled and sat down at the table. David Harrison was very polite to me. He brought me a glass of water, looking a bit apologetic. Eleanor, I heard you lost your baby too. Don't be sad, the important thing is to take care of yourself. Robert Harrison likely hadn't told David Harrison the real reason I terminated the pregnancy. It was perfect for me to tell him. I took a sip of the hot tea, my eyes full of determination. David, I didn't just lose the baby. Your brother thought Jess losing her baby was pitiful, so he forced me to terminate mine. David Harrison's cup dropped to the floor. He looked at me with utter disbelief. In the 3 years I've been married to your brother, I can't count how many times Jess has called him away, day or night. David Harrison seemed to recall something, some clue, and didn't refute me. Knowing my words were validated, I decided to add fuel to the fire. I don't understand what's going on between them, but as far as I know, your brother isn't being honest with you either. Maybe they're plotting against you too. I've heard Jess tell your brother she wants to divorce you and be with him. Are you sure your child wasn't something she intentionally lost? David Harrison's face changed. He slammed his hand down on the table. The tempered glass tabletop cracked under the force of his ring. Leaner, why are you telling me this? Hatred rose in my eyes. You and I both know why I married your brother in the first place. But the marriage is a fact, and my child lost its life innocently. I can't continue to tolerate them doing such things while you stand by and do nothing. I heard the hurried sound of high heels at the door and smirked. Using her own loss as an excuse, she called Robert Harrison out constantly. Yet she was wearing high heels. David Harrison heard the footsteps too and naturally connected them to my words. On his cold face, there was now only endless hatred. My goal achieved, I didn't linger. As I stood up to go downstairs, I pulled open the collar of my shirt. I came face to face with Jessica. The moment she saw me, she grabbed me tightly, demanding, "What did you tell my husband?" She looked at my loosened collar, a hint of disbelief in her eyes. I deliberately put on a sated expression and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, looking at her provocatively. "Didn't you like Robert Harrison? From now on, whenever you go looking for him, I'll come find David Harrison. Honestly, your brother-in-law's stamina is actually better than his brother's." Behind me, David Harrison appeared at the railing, his eyes dark as he looked at the sweating Jessica. Jessica went upstairs and immediately started a fight. This time, David Harrison didn't hold back. He slapped Jessica directly. I smiled and closed the front door. Outside was Robert Harrison, who had come back with her. Seeing me at David Harrison's place, he was surprised and grabbed my hand. "Why aren't you resting at the hospital? What are you doing here?" I shook off his hand and turned back to look at the Harrison estate door. "I came to check on my brother-in-law." "What's wrong?" Robert Harrison instantly became agitated and backed me against the wall. "How dare you? You're mine. I will never allow David Harrison to take someone from me again." He leaned in to kiss me, and I turned my head away, dodging him. I almost threw up. He looked at me, startled, then hurt. "I know you hate me, but please, not now, okay? At least wait a few months. You don't know how Jess cries every day, she's become so thin." The next day, Jessica complained to my mother. My mother came rushing to the hospital room. "You wicked Eleanor! How can you treat your own sister like this? Washed up by me for nothing?" I no longer expected any fairness from my mother. "I'll treat Jessica the way she treats me." My mother raised her hand high, ready to slap me, but my glare made her flinch and pull back. She didn't dare touch me, so she went to David Harrison's place and caused trouble with Jessica. For a while, the Harrison family estate was a circus. Mrs. Harrison couldn't stand it anymore and came to see me as soon as I was discharged. "Because of you, there's so much trouble. Can't you Gene women ever settle down?" I leaned against the bed, completely unhurried. This time, it was my turn to negotiate. "Mrs. Harrison, you look down on me. Why not give me some money and let me leave?" She frowned, considering the credibility of my words. "As you said, if Robert Harrison marries someone other than a Gene woman in the future, the Harrison family can have some peace." Mrs. Harrison's expression softened slightly. "My son is so outstanding, would you really be willing to leave? I feel incapable of winning back my husband's heart and have long since lost hope. It's better to replace me. I know who can handle Jessica." Mrs. Harrison finally nodded in satisfaction and praised me. "Good, you're smart. I can give you a sum of money, and you can take it and lie low in another city. I don't think Robert Harrison will mind." Having gotten what I wanted, I took out a divorce agreement, severing ties completely. Since I'm stepping aside, it's best to do so thoroughly. Mrs. Harrison gave me a smile for the first time. "You're truly well educated. Much better than your sister." The money arrived. The next second, I sent Mrs. Harrison the contact information of a girl who had been pursuing David Harrison for a long time and was Jessica's rival. In the days leading up to my departure, Robert Harrison, despite his previous indifference, became entangled with me. He stayed by my side constantly. "Are you still unhappy? Don't worry, I'm here with you, I'm not going anywhere." If this had been before, I would surely have had a change of heart. But now, only a cold shell remained of me. With his abilities, he couldn't warm me up in the slightest. I recorded Robert Harrison's words and sent the voice message to Jessica. Naturally, someone would take care of getting him away. As he left, he kept looking back, full of unwillingness, which made me force myself to hold back nausea. Packing my things, I looked back at the house I had lived in for 3 years, feeling no regret. This place had buried my best years. Now, let the Harrison family deal with the mess and suffer the consequences themselves. I took the money and went to Coastal City, found an advisor, and returned to my medical career. This time, I was alone, burning bridges. In 3 years, I earned my doctorate and was exceptionally appointed to stay in the lab for cardiovascular research. It was also thanks to my medical achievements that I saw Daniel Peterson again. The former top student was now much more composed, with the air of an entrepreneur. He had stayed there, building his career, surrounded by admirers. He was the investor for this medical research project, and my advisor put me forward to liaise with him. Looking at Chloe, his secretary, who kept giving him suggestive glances, my eyes drifted to the window. The days we spent studying and doing research together in college were truly happy. If it weren't for Jessica, we would have lived like ordinary people, building our lives step by step, walking down the aisle. Unfortuna. Telly, a hurried glance from Robert Harrison under the tree had taken me away and made me Mrs. Harrison. Daniel Peterson and I didn't even have the power to struggle. Looking at how things had changed, I couldn't help but feel a sense of melancholy. He, however, kept his eyes on me and after a while, offered a greeting. Eleanor, have you been well these past few years? I placed the coffee in my hand back on the table and answered honestly. No. I lost my child, got divorced, and came back here. I'm pursuing my career again. Chloe, the secretary behind Daniel Peterson, scoffed. I looked at her, and she boldly rolled her eyes at me. Daniel Peterson was displeased and told her to move away. I'm so happy to see you back. This time, I have the power to protect you. The secretary, who had felt no apprehension about a divorced woman like me, immediately stepped forward when she heard her boss's words. No, boss, she's just a gold digger. She's even been through a miscarriage. Why are you chasing after her? The coffee shop was bustling with people. I admit her loud voice made me lose reputation, my face flushed. But Daniel Peterson shielded me from the curious stares and held my hand to steady me. Chloe, your father is my business partner, and I only agreed to let you shadow me for experience. If you have any illusions about me, you shouldn't. I'm still unmarried because I've been waiting for her. The girl looked astonished, cried hysterically, and ran out. I finally experienced what it felt like to be protected. A warmth spread through me, but I still maintained some distance, sitting further away. Daniel Peterson, I've been through too much. I'm not good enough for you anymore. He pulled me into his arms. His scent was comforting. That's because I was incapable back then. This time, no one will take you away. 5 years passed, and Daniel Peterson was now influential in Coastal City. Even the powers in Capital City were wary of him. The established families extended olive branches, and I had reached the peak of my profession, becoming the youngest professor. When I came to Capital City this time to present cutting-edge medical research, I didn't expect to see Robert Harrison again. As soon as the conference ended, a figure rushed towards me and hugged me right on stage. The camera flashes were still going off below. I stomped on his foot, finally managing to pull away slightly. Looking up, I met Robert Harrison's face, full of the joy of having found me again. I searched all over Capital City. You went back to study medicine? Why didn't I think of that? Many people in the audience who knew about Daniel Peterson and my relationship pointed fingers and criticized. Sir, please behave yourself. But Robert Harrison was the kind of person who would impulsively rush into marriage. He didn't care about the stares below and confronted the speaker. Behave myself? What's there to be proper about when I'm hugging my wife? Several friends exchanged bewildered glances, unsure what was happening. Mr. Harrison, I believe we divorced 8 years ago. What wife? Robert Harrison looked puzzled. Who said that? When did I agree to a divorce? I thought you were just angry and ran away for 8 years. And you're telling me you got divorced? Didn't I tell you I wouldn't allow you to leave? He shamelessly grabbed my hand. His grip was incredibly strong, I couldn't break free. A small child suddenly darted out of the crowd and came to my side, kicking Robert Harrison in the knee. That's for bullying my mom. Robert Harrison immediately lost his balance and fell to the ground. Robert Harrison's bodyguards rushed forward to grab the child. I pulled the child into my arms. Which of you dares to touch my son? The handsome little figure, holding a bouquet of flowers nearly as big as himself, thrust them into my arms. He stood in front of me like a little wolf, confronting Robert Harrison. That's for bothering my mom. Robert Harrison was in pain on the ground. He looked at Ethan Peterson a few times and suddenly burst out laughing. Ellie, you didn't terminate my child, did you? This must be my son. He stood up excitedly, holding Ethan Peterson tightly and kissing him on the head several times. Ethan Peterson, like his stern-faced father, was full of anger at that moment, wanting to kick him a few more times. The scene was lively. My friends who were with me didn't dare speak. I pulled my son back and smiled. Mr. Harrison, take a good look. This child is only 5 years old. Robert Harrison looked at him a few times, and the more he looked, the more he thought he resembled him, completely ignoring my explanation. With this height, how can he be 5 years old? He must be my son. It was all Daniel Peterson's fault. At 6 feet 3 inches, his genes were too good, making our son lose the look of a young child early on. Robert Harrison was lost in his own excitement, completely unconcerned that the conference was still dispersing. Seeing his apparent affection for the child, I couldn't help but mock him. What, after 8 years, Mr. Harrison still hasn't managed to get Jessica to have a child for you? In the years after I left, gossip about the Harrison family in Capital City was constant. Even the cats on the street had heard Jessica's name mentioned twice. With her efforts alone, she had put the entire Jean family on the spot. But in the later years, for some reason, there was rarely any mention of them. I had completely cut off contact with everyone here after moving to Coastal City and knew nothing. Everyone present, hearing my words, looked incredibly interested. Some couldn't help but lower their heads and chuckle secretly. Robert Harrison's face looked strained. He waved a hand. Ellie, let's not talk about her. Seeing me pulling my son away, he became unruly again and threw me over his shoulder. He had his bodyguards hold on to my son and carried me back to the Harrison estate once more. Everything at the Harrison estate was the same as when I left. But in recent years, with the economic downturn, these established families weren't as wealthy as before. Some of the furniture in the house showed signs of wear and tear. My son scanned the sofa, the disdain in his eyes obvious. Maria, the housekeeper, was still there and looked thrilled to see me back. Madam, the young master finally found you. I just nodded politely, not responding. The old housekeeper continued, trying to help. When you left, the young master almost turned Capital City upside down. If it wasn't for Miss Jean, he might have gone crazy. I lowered my gaze, suppressing the feeling of disgust. These past few years, the young master ignored everything related to the Harrison family, searching everywhere for you. He finally found you. It's good you're back. My son's little face wrinkled, full of disdain. What nonsense are you talking, Maria? This is my mother, not your madam or young master's wife. Only then did Maria notice my son. She pointed but didn't dare speak. I had to explain. I remarried a long time ago. This is my son, Ethan Peterson. Robert Harrison, who had changed his clothes, heard this and came over in 3 strides. You said his last name is Peterson? Daniel Peterson's son? I rolled my eyes, managing to maintain an elegant and composed demeanor, not wanting to lose face in front of my son. Yes, Mr. Harrison. I told you, this is my son, not yours. Your son was killed by you a long time ago. Robert Harrison sank onto the sofa, stunned. After a long pause, he ordered the bodyguards to remove Ethan Peterson. I pulled my son into my arms. Robert Harrison, I signed a divorce agreement with you 8 years ago. You can ask your mother. I also received the divorce certificate a long time ago. Stop bothering me and pretending to be affectionate. Robert Harrison blocked me, acting like he had nothing to lose. I don't care whose wife you are. I could take you once, I can take you again. Just as he was about to kiss me, there was a commotion outside the door. The Harrison family bodyguards were pushed back, retreating. Even the main door was kicked open. Daniel Peterson stormed into the Harrison estate like a force of nature and immediately embraced me. Let's see who's asking for trouble, daring to touch my wife. Ethan Peterson stood beside his father, looking proud, confronting Robert Harrison together. This was the first time I saw regret in Robert Harrison's eyes. He extended a hand towards Daniel Peterson. Well, old friend. You're impressive now, even daring to break into the Harrison family estate. Daniel Peterson patted his son's back reassuringly. He also smiled. I heard the Harrison family in Capital City has been quite eventful these past few years. I wonder if the media would be interested in knowing about the dirty secrets of this prominent family? This time, Daniel Peterson had the power to compete with him. He was no longer the poor student he used to be. When he took me away, Robert Harrison didn't even dare stop him. For 8 years, the two Harrison brothers were locked in a bitter rivalry over a woman. Meanwhile, Daniel Peterson was expanding his empire. Now, incapable himself, Robert Harrison could only bring in his parents. He wanted to use the family's power once again to reclaim me. Mrs. Harrison came to the hospital to see me, still with that arrogant demeanor. I thought you were clever, but you came back again. Do you Gene women have to turn my family upside down before you're satisfied? But this was my territory. The people coming and going were prominent figures. When Mrs. Harrison saw people she normally struggled to even meet treating me with respect, she gave up the idea of lecturing me. She looked at the photo of my son on the table and sighed. It would have been better if you had been allowed to have the child back then. I threw the pen in my hand onto the table. I really must thank you, Mrs. Harrison. Because you didn't agree, I have the good life I have today. She was speechless for a long time, finally just awkwardly leaving. Half a month later, Mr. Harrison Sr. was so angered by Robert Harrison that he collapsed and became unconscious. Mrs. Harrison could only come to me. It's all because of your family's affairs. You're responsible. I checked Mr. Harrison Sr.'s eyelids on the bed, knowing this surgery was one only I could perform. But Mrs. Harrison clearly looked down on me. Who knows if you'll take it out on him? Get another doctor. The doctor she called was nearly 70 years old. He took one look and scolded her. Only Dr. Jean can do this surgery. Why did you call me? Only then did the Harrison family realize my true capabilities. Mrs. Harrison leaned against the wall, muttering, didn't she become an expert by relying on men? Robert Harrison looked at me, busy in the hospital room, with a strange expression. He reached out his hand. I didn't know you were really a doctor. Yes, if you hadn't been so powerful and snatched me off the street, I would have succeeded long ago. Did you forget? I wasn't willing to become a trophy wife in your family. Robert Harrison's hair fell over his eyes. He asked, can you save my father? Yes, if you stop bothering me. All right. I heard the sound of him gritting his teeth in that all right. Mr. Harrison Sr.'s surgery was successful. As a thank you, the Harrison family annual gathering specifically sent me an invitation. I didn't wear the evening gown the Harrison family sent and attended with Daniel Peterson, both of us in formal wear/suits. This was our first time stepping into the social scene of Capital City. Not depending on anyone, there was no need to wear a dress. At the dinner, I saw Jessica again, her face contorted in anger. She seemed to be doing poorly, her face covered in acne. When I arrived, I heard gossip. When she was younger, her lifestyle was promiscuous, leading to her inability to carry a pregnancy to term. Fortunately, David Harrison had long since given up hope on her and was only keeping her despite Robert Harrison. And David Harrison's current mistress was the girl who was my former rival and Jessica's rival. Seeing me in a suit, being congratulated in the crowd, Jessica came over on her own initiative to make trouble. Sister, look, marrying into the Harrison family was clearly a shortcut. Why did you have to go marry someone else and then sneak back in? She swirled the wine in her glass, pretending not to be jealous. Look how pathetic you are, still having to fawn over these rich people. She put her arm on David Harrison's arm, but he pulled away. David Harrison's eyes lit up as he walked towards another woman. Jessica bit her lip with jealousy but didn't dare complain. When she turned back, intending to approach Robert Harrison, she saw him standing rooted to the spot, his eyes fixed on me. I clearly heard Mrs. Harrison quietly mutter bitch. But more and more people in the venue were greeting me, so she had to restrain herself. Daniel Peterson was now a new power, and the resources he held were exactly what these established families, afraid to expand their reach, needed most. Jessica still wanted to come over and cause trouble, so I decided to confront her directly. How come, after all these years involved with both Harrison brothers, you still haven't gotten anywhere, sister? Infertility is a disease. Do you need me to find someone to treat you? You're not getting any younger, you know. You'll be too late if you don't hurry. Jessica shrieked, looking ready to lunge at me and fight. Daniel Peterson blocked her instantly. He placed his hand on Jessica's head, looking back at Robert Harrison. Mr. Harrison, please take your madwoman away. The Harrison family has troll. Why fallen, they even send a madwoman to attend the annual gathering. David Harrison was happy to see his brother humiliated and chimed in. Mr. Peterson, Miss Jean, don't bother. She's damaged goods, a flower that's been played with too much. She can't have children anymore. Everyone watching the Harrison family drama exchanged knowing glances and secretly chuckled. Only the Harrison family members were completely red-faced. Robert Harrison stood in the light, his face full of sorrow, not daring to step forward. Mr. Harrison Sr. finally intervened, stabilizing the situation. He also expressed his gratitude. From now on, the Peterson family can rely on the Harrison family for any needs. Daniel Peterson looked down on the chaotic Harrison family estate like an emperor. I'll pass, thank you. We had given them the necessary respect. Daniel Peterson was eager to take me home for dinner with our son. I never saw Jessica again after that night, screaming hysterically after being locked up. I heard later that she jumped from the Harrison estate's balcony.